And welcome to this afternoon's, it's an early Tuesdays of CKLS this month because we wanted to make sure we got it in before all the big prep for the big meeting on the 26th. That is our spring fling, of course, and our full system annual meeting at Camp Webster outside of Salina. The morning we will have Library Ethics 101 at 11. The schools will split off to do their own thing, and the executive board will meet at 11, and then we will continue a small group work on Library Ethics 101. We will then have lunch, and then we will have our full system board meeting starting at 1:15. It will be a hybrid meeting, both online and in person. If you haven't yet, make sure you let us know who your library's voting representative is. That one should be must be elected by your board and then recorded in the minutes, but then you just need to let us know who that is. We can verify later if need be. If you've registered and I haven't confirmed your voting rep, I'll be in touch with you just to confirm that that has been done correctly. Let's see, what other cleanup things do we have? I think that's it. Patty's gonna share us a little May 4th humor, and then we'll get started.
Good afternoon, friends. Every day at the Great Bend Public Library, they have this little easel, little chalkboard easel. It's about a foot high, and they write a riddle or a joke on it, and then on the backside is the answer. And so today's joke was, what do you call a droid that takes the long way around?
I know what a
Michael
hemisphere
knows.
is.
All I can think of is roundabout.
Rover.
R2 detour.
Oh,
Okay.
I was thinking like Mars rover or something.
That's not what I
That's
thought.
not Star Wars.
May
Very
the Force be with you.
bless you. All right. Okay. I'm gonna stop being distracted now. Thank you for all joining us this afternoon. We know that this year has a new allotment, the Public Library Service allotment, and maybe not everybody has kind of figured out what to do with that allotment or what that library allotment is for. So we thought this would be a good time to kind of look at that allotment, talk about ways to future plan with your library and how you can best put that new allotment to use for your library.
So, Maribeth, what can we not spend the allotment on?
The allotment, like the rest of the CKLS funds, cannot be put into savings or pay off debt. It cannot be used to buy real estate or maintenance on your building, or renovations, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And then it also must be spent by the end of the year. And
Can
that's
it
the
be
end of
encumbered?
2021.
Can it be encumbered by the end of the year?
Spent or encumbered, but it must be, like the order is in and encumbered, not, I'm planning to spend it, but I haven't done it.
Right. I've already ordered it. I just haven't gotten the bill yet. Right.
Right.
Right. Does everybody understand what encumbered means? I just want to make sure because it becomes quite a question at the end of the year. Like Maribeth explained, it can't be that I was gonna order something and then pay for it. It has to be the order has actually been placed.
Okay.
And then when the invoice comes in, so if I ordered something in the middle of December because there was a great sale and the invoice came to me in January and I paid it in January, that's cool. If I don't get around to ordering it until January and paying for it in January, that's not cool. So you want to watch your timeline really carefully there. So you are legally doing what's encumbered. We want to make sure that you get that money spent before it's too late. So Patty, what are some of the ideas that people could spend this public library service allotment on?
Well, I, as the youth services and the programmer person, I think of the things that for years you may have been able to get some of those mini grants for. So that program grant where you use that money to hire that entertainer. So you might want to set X amount of dollars aside for that summer entertainer. This is where you used to have story time funding money, but that's part of this whole group now. So if you normally bought special books for story time, if you bought craft materials, if you bought special games or manipulatives for story time. So if it were me and my director looked at me and said, okay, we have this amount of dollars, I would be putting in saying, this is the amount of money that I would like to have for programming right off the top. Or if there is a programming budget, make sure that that gets fed, or perhaps help establish a programming budget. So each year, I know we're going to get this amount of dollars to maybe, know that we're going to put of that money, we're going to put away $300 for programming for the year, or something of that nature. So I would hope that the programmer, whether it's you as a single librarian, or if there is a program in your building, that they get some voice in helping you separate some of these funds, because those mini grants for story time and programming and special projects are no longer there.
Right, right. So we used to, once upon a time, have a special projects grant, and we know that it was used for all kinds of things. It was used to replace a window, to get the carpet cleaned, to, oh my goodness, lots of things, paint, buy a story time rug, and things like that. Are those things that could be used for this public library services allotment? Yes, yes. So before, we had a materials grant, and you could use the money to purchase materials. Linda asked if it could be used to purchase large print materials, and the answer is yes. Yes, it can. What I would recommend is looking, before you make any purchases, look in the catalog to see what's available, because you don't really want to make too many duplicates. And then order what you think is going to go really well in your community, because inevitably that's going to be very popular with another community, and you'll be able to share those out as well, so they'll see a lot of circulations. If you've got an area of nonfiction that is particularly weak, and that happens, this might be one idea to purchase for your collection. Purchase some nonfiction items that need to be refreshed. You could fill in a series if it's something that you wanted. You could also purchase things and build circulating kits. Kits are very popular in every library that I know that has one. They're very popular. They circulate very well. That may be something you want to dip your toe into. What I want to make clear is that all those little grants don't exist anymore. Those have all been rolled into one, and then using the formula, they've been allotted to each library. And so depending on the size of your community is the size of the allotment that you get for that public library service allotment. The reason that you get the public library service allotment is the same reason you get any money from CKLS, and it's not really for serving the patrons in your own town. It's for serving everybody else in the rural counties, people who live outside your taxing district. When every library joined the system, and you all had to ask to join, you agreed that you would provide service to all the libraries within the region, the system's region, and you would do it, and you do that now. Let's see, let's look through here.
So we do
Can
have,
it be?
yeah, we do have a couple in the chat. Linda asks, could it be for large print materials for the older population, or are books excluded?
Nope, you can use it for that. You could use it to stock up a DVD collection. You could use it to boost up picture books. It's anything that's going to circulate is just fine.
And then Barb in Portland asks, is there anything the money cannot fund? And I gave in the chat those three things again.
Yes.
Cannot pay off debt, go into savings, cannot buy real estate or renovate the building, and must be spent by the end of the year. If you're paying attention, you will know that this is the same stipulation that is on the state aid funds as well. This is where this comes from. We're using the same stipulation as state aid.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
Nope, it's been that way with system money too for a long time. It's local tax dollars that you can save up to 10% of.
Yes, and put into your capital improvement or whatever.
Yep.
We have a question. Should we write a public allotment fund proposal and discuss what to do with it with our board?
Your board must be involved in the discussion. Remember, it's the board's responsibility to procure funding. One of the reasons that we moved to this public library service allotment was that then how much money you're going to get year after year after year. And so you can use this money not just to fix little leaks in the dike with your finger, but to long range plan and perhaps even build a whole new dike. Now that's an old analogy a lot of people probably aren't going to get, boy. I just thought of that. This is to help you long range plan. If you know you just got new computers, staff computers last year, and the year before that you got patron computers, you know that in a few more years, you're going to need to do those computers again. And so this is a way that you can plan ahead for that. You can spend this money on everyday things and then save that 10% of tax dollars and use that 10% of tax dollars that you've put into capital improvement fund to then purchase that technology. That's one way you can do it. Michael, what was your question? What is a renovation? Was that you?
Yes, I was just wondering, would something like a maintenance for something that's broken fall under the category of renovations?
Absolutely. Renovations is.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Maribeth.
I looked it up on the state website, how they word it, and they word it just a little bit differently than us, but I think it has the same meaning. So I'm just going to paste that in there. State aid funds, and this is the same we're using for CKLS funds as well, may be used for any public library purpose except construction, which is what we're calling renovation, repair, or debt reduction. And then we have, it must be expended by the end of the year 2020.
And as with all CKLS grants, I would say if you've got a question, be sure and let Maribeth know. And that's not her deciding. We all take a look at it at CKLS, grab whoever's around for sure, and we really discuss it and say, does this meet the spirit and intent of the grant? It's not like if you're Colleen Sipple and you want to do a fix a broken window, we'll say no to you, but we'd say yes to Connie Gordon. We look at things and we look at historically how things have been interpreted, and we're actually pretty loose on our interpretations of these things. We want you to get the money and we want you to use it on what your board determines is necessary. So yes, your board needs to be in on this conversation, and they need to understand that this is a way for them to take care of projects in the long run. And it's a way to possibly, if you haven't yet, start saving up that 10% from your local fund.
And
So Gail, you had mentioned before the Storytime rug. Yeah. So I can't put carpet in my building, but I could possibly buy a Storytime rug with this money.
Yes.
Because they are very different things. Although we walk on both and we play on both, they are very different things. And so you see, that's why if you have the question, if you want to buy the Storytime rug and you're still not sure, call Maribeth, and as Gail said, we'll talk it out and we'll make sure that it fits the spirit, but we'll also make sure that you're following within the guidelines, because we're not going to direct you in the wrong direction.
No. So another example would be, you've got a lovely picture window, and at Frank Carlson and Concordia, they have lots of them. They're beautiful. So they could make a built-in window seat, surround it, and it's really beautiful and stuff. That's kind of a permanent thing. If they put in a temporary window seat, one that isn't really attached to the wall solid, but could be possibly moved around, to me, that would qualify.
all right, there is another question in the chat. If we already know we need new patron computers, can that be spent in the year the money is received, or run it through the savings for later date idea? So if you're using CKLS funds, it needs to be spent the year that it is received. There is only one time that was different with CKLS funds, and that grant no longer exists. So I'm not going to explain that one.
Right.
But when you receive, the year you receive the CKLS funds is the year you need to spend it. So spent or encumbered by December 31st, 11:59 p.m.
Yes.
I'm going to give you as much time as I can, and that's it. Go ahead.
One of the things I would say is if you're going to buy any new computers or other technology gear, get in touch with Andy and he's going to help you find the best buy and the most current, fastest technology that you can afford.
And I'm seeing a kind of a trend in the question, so I think there's something we need to clarify, is that this new allotment doesn't come with a whole bunch of rules where it follows the same rules as the rest of the CKLS grant, but because it's new, it's an opportunity to start talking about future planning. This money came from the grants that the money we had budgeted for grants. And now those grants no longer exist. That money is all rolled into one and then distributed out. When they were in grants, we only distributed out those that applied for grants and earned the grant. So there was always money left on the table. Now that pot of money, which is $121,000, is all distributed out. So there's no money left on the table. So the purpose of this discussion and talking about how to spend public library services allotment, it's not that you have to give us a proposal or go through any of that. It's a time to start looking at those needs in your library that you may have waited for a CKLS grant for in the past. Those grants no longer exist. So now it's time to start planning those with this allotment money. Is the idea behind the allotment, is ways to help your library move forward.
Here's one example. In Great Bend, our handicap operated doors at the front and the north, on the east and the north, are original to the building and they break all the time. We would have waited normally until there was a CKLS materials grant and we would have applied for a grant to help. Now, it's going to be $40,000 to fix those doors. So we're also looking, and we've got the Golden Belt Community Foundation, the Kansas Health Foundation, and lots of other things. Because there's not the CKLS materials grant anymore, my board could choose to set aside some of that money, and I mean just hold it in the account and use that as a local contribution so that the grant selectors would know that we've got some skin in the game. That's one of the ways that you could do that. You could just, there's so many choices. There's just 3 things that you can't spend it on. But Maribeth's been getting a lot of questions, and we knew that you had a lot of questions on, can we spend it on this? Can we spend it on that? We wanted to make sure we were here to answer those questions for you.
There is a question in the chat. A large percent of our money goes, and I'm guessing CKLS money, goes to books or wages. Most of the rest we get grants for whatever we need. I hope that is okay, as my wages are the most important part.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the very easy way to think ahead, to make your end of year CKLS system grant questionnaire really easy, is if you use it all on wages, you don't have to say we spent $1,500 on wages, we spent $73 on collection, we spent $21 on this. You can just say we spent it all on wages, on salary. And yeah, you can do that.
That's a change from the way CKLS used to say you needed to track your CKLS funds. I wasn't part of that description, so I can't tell you how you used to be told, but I know that for a time you were encouraged to track, like, I bought this book specifically with CKLS money, so you track that $29.95 or whatever it cost. And now we're asking for more of
big picture,
big picture instead of itemized reporting.
And the real reason that we're doing that is because we believe in local control. Your communities, by state law, need to put in a local maintenance of effort to support the library. Those are tax dollars. Your library board is the governing authority of the library. We trust that they will do the right thing for the library. That's one of the reasons we offer so many different ways for them to go to trustee training, is because we know that a well-trained board makes good decisions. A well-trained librarian guides the board as the technical advisor, but you don't need CKLS to decide how you spend that money. Now, because it's tax dollars, we do have the 3 limitations that we place on it. Jessica says, if you can use it for doors.
No, I mean, because
Sorry, I got it.
If you can use it for doors, can you also use it for windows? That's what we'd need. I'd say yes. Because it's probably not going to pay for all the windows in your library because you've got a lot of windows. But yeah, I would.
So I think the ones that it would be where you probably need to clear it with us if it's okay is this, does this go under construction/repairs/renovations
Right.
portion?
To me,
And that's one that we would, we would work it
Talk about.
together and talk about it. Yeah.
right, right. To me, it might be like adding on to your building, but replacing the doors and windows, no. You need doors and windows to operate your library properly. So it's a little bit of a gray area, but you can also see that we want to make it work for you. So we'll ask you questions so you can sell it to us.
Yes. Thank you, Patty, for putting that in the chat. I'm going to say that most of the things that you need and want to spend your money on is going to be okay.
Yeah.
When it gets into that where you're not quite sure if that would go under the construction, renovation, whatever,
Mhm.
and that's when it would send us a call, shoot us an email. We will, evaluate it and look at it as fairly as possible and in comparison with other things that are going on with the system, how we ruled at another library, if there's a precedent set and all that as well.
And one of the reasons that I feel that we can be more lax than the state on this is because part of this money comes from the old facilities grant. And the old facilities grant lets you do things like fix the roof, put in a new window so it doesn't rain all over the books all the time, things like that, put in a hot water heater, because you've only ever had cold water in your library since forever and ever, those kinds of things. When we rolled all these together, we knew this had to be very broad because we needed you to be able to spend it on the things that would have qualified previously.
is-
Materials, programming. Yeah,
Programming.
go ahead.
There's a question. Our city took a portion of the storage shed away. Could we use any of it to purchase a storage building? To me, that's crossing that line into renovation.
I'd say
real
no.
estate. Yeah.
I'd say no. And I'd say, who did the storage shed belong to? And that's, who did the storage shed belong to? If it belonged to the city, it was theirs all the time and they were just nicely letting you use some of it. So it's not really, they took it away. That's one of the things to make sure.
And that is a whole different tangent, but I'm going to just put a little note in there that if your building is owned by another entity, check your records and see what you have in writing about what the owner will take care of for repairs and what the library is responsible for.
We're finding, even in the smallest of communities, that the old gentleman's agreement, by which if the city owned the building, what they would fix and what they won't and what the library was supposed to fix, nobody remembers that stuff anymore. And the people who made the original agreements have long since passed away with no paper trail. And what we're finding across Kansas especially is that it is in the best interest of the city and the library to establish that as a formal agreement now. And that's something that we've done in numerous places and we'll be very glad to help you. It's actually really easy to do.
This is Patty. The purpose of us having this conversation was because every day Maribeth either gets a call or an email, or I get can I spend my storytime money on that question? And so it's to help, and we wanted to do it early enough in the year to help you make certain that you have that money, you know what it is, and you know what it does. And so you're not waiting for a grant that might come out in September and has to be used by the following, December, and you're sitting there waiting for that thing that you know always happens at this time of year, and it's not going to come. And so that's the other thing, is we don't want you to be counting on something that's really not there any longer. But it's not there in the same way that it was. It's not that it's not there. And so keep in mind that that $121,000 is now distributed to where all of that money is going to a system member library. It's no longer sitting on the table waiting for somebody to apply for that grant that might run out on December 31st and nobody's applied, and there's still $4,000 sitting in the materials fund. We don't want that to happen. We want it to be being used in a library.
And Amy, I see your question. If the public allotment was wanted to use for something building related and could not do that with that money, that is where maybe long-term planning with savings 10% and using public allotment to fill the savings. So you couldn't go into savings, but if you have a building project, think about where your tax dollars could be spent on that building project, and your public library could go in and fill where that hole is for your moving those tax dollars. So let's say your tax dollars pay for $500 of materials purchasing, new books. You could take that $500 for materials purchasing and reallocate that to your building project, and then use $500 from your public library service allotment to buy those books. So there might be a little bit where you have to rearrange through your budget how you're going to spend what money. And that's the kind of the goal, is start thinking about this. Okay, I know that I can't spend the CKLS money on this building project, this renovation, but I can free up my tax dollars for the renovation if I use the public library service allotment to pay for my salaries, my programming, or my materials.
Right. Now, was there just another? I have a small screen.
The budget
Yes,
shuffle
the
dance.
budget shuffle dance. Perfect. One of the things I wanted to say is that in the past, for the programming grant, libraries have pitched together and they have hired a programmer, and they've had it at one location. I know that Long Island, Logan, and Prairie View are the ones that come to my mind right away. They've done this in the past. They have applied for the programming grant as an individual library, and I think they've done it as a group before as well. But what they do then is it's for summer library program, and maybe they have a magician in, and all the other communities go to that location. Yes, you can do that. You could even use some of your public library service allotment, and somebody else could use some of theirs, and you could get a really big dollar presenter in. That would work too. Now it's a little bit late for summer already, but that's a thing to plan for. Libraries could do this with author visits as well.
You will notice, I think you will notice that in the budget, for the proposed budget that came in the packet, we are planning on our libraries receiving the same amount of system grant as this year. So that will vary a little bit on how much CE you spend this year, and that one, that's where your variable comes in. So know that you should be expecting very similar money from CKLS next year. And then I'm going to add that caveat that goes in is, of course, just like you are dependent on how many taxes can be collected, so are we.
Right.
But we are going to pass on as much funds as we can. And so we're planning right now, this is what we expect. But as you all know, you never know what your taxes are actually collected.
Right. And you've all heard me say before that since say 2007, CKLS funding to libraries is up by over 50%. I know that all of you are, I'm going to check who's participating now. I think I can talk freely. Okay. I know that you're all nervous about what's happening with Hayes and Salina. And I want to say that our #1 priority for maintaining funding is to maintain the amount of money that we put, dollars that we put into public libraries. That I'm going to live and die by that stance. That'll be the last thing that ever goes. It's important. It has made such a huge difference in our libraries. It has made the difference from libraries making minimum wage to bumping them up a little bit more than that. It has made big differences in your facilities, in your collections, in the programming that you're offering. We know that your communities rely on that, and we understand that that is of highest importance to you. And we're going to fight to do everything we've got to hold that fast. And that includes this public library service allotment as well. So the reason that I'm saying that is because what I really want you to know is plan on this for the next couple of years. We're not going to change it. This gives you an opportunity to make some big changes that you might not normally have made. And I saw something about jamming Randy. Well, Norma, what day is jamming Randy coming to Logan? Maybe I need to go consulting up there. Surely you have something you need my help for.
This is Patty. Earlier when we were talking about somebody referred to in the chat as the budget shuffle. I want to assure you that the way we are advising you is completely legal.
Yes.
We are, so it's because we know that it might have sounded a little hinky, and it's not, as long as the 10% of the tax money is what you're saving. So we want to, and Diane, who is the president of a board of a small library, or was, I guess, said that that a community could misconstrue those words. So we need to, because if your job is to educate your board on what you learned today, and Diane called it a budget adjustment. But we want to assure you that it is completely legal. It's just a matter of making sure it's the 10% of the local dollars is what you're saving, not the CKLS money. You're just allocating it in a different
Right. Right.
And,
So
and the way
Amy's-
we
Go ahead.
track that is with the expenditure form. I know, at the beginning, we say at the form, I have the pre-filled, this is how much money you received from CKLS. And that's how much money you have to account for us. And that's how we track that. We, of course, know that now it's all, I'm going to say digital money. You don't actually have the pile of tax dollars in your hands and then a pile of CKLS dollars in your hands. So we know that if you can account for the $7,300 that CKLS gave you, we know that you spent the CKLS money within the guidelines. And that's why we have that expenditure form at the end of the year, or in January.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a little secret. We have had libraries do some amazing things, totally thinking outside the box, and they spent the money in the wrong way. They spent materials money on a float in the parade, or they did something very different, and we didn't come and take the money back. What it was our job was to educate them that you shouldn't have done this, but here are the ways that you can spend this in the future, and here are the ways that you can find money for the float in the parade in the future. But we do advise you to ask us first, because we consider ourselves very approachable, if a little goofy, and we love the exciting things that you guys are doing. I'm really excited that every single one of our libraries is open to the public with very few restrictions. Everybody's planning on doing something amazing at summer. It's going to be very different in every community, but it's going to be great. And we want you to come up with some great ideas to spend this money. And hey, if you have an idea, why don't you put it out in the CKLS members Google group? Because other people are going to be having a hard time coming up with this. As Amy said, this is really wide open. It's really kind of overwhelming. And she's right. For those of us who aren't the most creative of thinkers, this is a little overwhelming. And we don't want you to be scrambling at the end of the year to try to figure out, what are we going to spend this on? You don't want it.
You should never buy a book for the sake of buying the book. You should buy the book because your community needs it. And I go back to the little mantra that we've taught about donations. You have to treat collection in the same way with the donation. If it hits your doorstep, you can't think of 5 people who are going to read it, you probably shouldn't add it to your collection. In the same way of that buying something new. And so the whole goal is not to get you to spend the money just because it's money. We want you to spend it on things that your library needs. And when you think, the thing that the library needs the most, and the way to allocate that money to ensure it's there is on wages. You know, that's the one thing that it needs more than anything else.
Maybe
so-
this is time. Maybe this is time to advocate for a modest increase in salary for yourself. You can do it. When I worked for the Army Education Center, I was a civilian, and it's federal dollars. So you get this much money. And if you don't spend it, you don't get it next year. So every year, and now to me, this is just wasteful. And this refers to what Patty was talking about, is that there would be money left over. So they would go buy things. We had more plastic plants in our office than a nursery has real plants in a small greenhouse. That's wasteful. That's wasteful for tax dollars. I know you're not going to do that, but just think of that example. Buy things that your library needs, your community needs. Look at some of these amazing ideas on kits. Oh my gosh, there's such exciting things going on. I just heard recently that one library had like resistance bands and hula hoops and some other things, and they were checking them out as a fitness kit. Well, what a great idea. So we've been talking now, and kind of we're saying the same things over and over again. What ideas do you have after hearing us talk? What are you thinking you might be wanting to use this money on?
I do have one question in the chat. It's a question about why can we only save 10% of the local tax money?
That is what the Kansas statute for public libraries says. That's the basic reason why, is because the lawmakers many years ago, when the statutes or laws for public libraries in Kansas were established, they knew that the libraries were to be supported by tax dollars. Most entities have to spend all of their tax dollars the year it is received, or they have to be encumbered. Well, they knew that libraries were going to be in buildings that soon got too small, or the roof blew off, or the toilet overflowed and ruined all the carpet. They knew that emergencies were going to happen and regular maintenance was going to happen. And they knew that library boards needed a way to be able to plan for those things. And so they established the opportunity for libraries to save some of those tax dollars through the Capital Improvement Fund. In statute, it says that you can save up to 10% of your local tax dollars, and that's why it's 10%. Now, I would encourage you, because given this age in transparency and governance and finance, if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in your capital improvement fund going unspent, that's not so cool. Especially if you're a small community. You'll want to visit with me and I can help you with that. Yeah, and I doubt that there are any of us that have that, quite honestly. We don't have that much money floating around. There's some busyness going on in the chat. I want to see.
So Deanna says, I am hoping to get several kits for bird watching, stargazing, and things like crochet hooks, gardening tools, and yoga mats. But it won't necessarily be with the allotment money. I think those are great.
Yarn too.
Get yarn too. Yeah, even those consumable parts of your kits as well. Linda Scott says computers and or materials, books, etc. And Michael offers to help Deanna set circ rules for her toolkit, or her toolkits, her kits. Amy says, I think it would be neat to do a blood pressure kit. I could see where that would be very useful.
I do too. And Marcia or Jewel says, where do we look to find these kits? Okay, Lincoln Library has kits. Michael, will you send out an email later today or tomorrow? I'm not sure what your schedule looks like. I'm not going to put this on you, and show them how to search for special kits in Pathfinder Central so they can see what other libraries have.
And use services here at CKLS.
Yes.
I can toot that horn.
Osborne and Lincoln both kind of were first that kind of went out the door in the kit world a little early and a little different. But there are a lot of kit ideas out there, and I follow a bunch of libraries, and so periodically I'll throw a message out on the Facebook group that'll say, hey, here's a library to look at for some kit ideas. But also, if you see something in youth services that you think you want to replicate for yourself, the youth services collection manager, Diane Bott, would be glad to help you figure out where those items came from and approximately how much it costs. Because we got smart and found lower prices on some things after we've spent the money. But also we figured out ways to, we're very good shoppers. I don't like to pay full price for anything. And so we can kind of help you find ways to get there and how to package these things and how to circulate these things. They're all some ideas. Yes, Norma, Talking Books does still have some kits, and there's still some items in that collection.
Yep.
So
Ashley,
there are things that you can replicate from somewhere else.
Ashley, Michael and Liz are the ones who are going to help you put your kits into the system. And Michael and Liz are both on here.
Yep. And Deanna was showing us her citizen
Yes.
science kit from the NNLM. I am guessing that she may have got some ideas for the citizen science from maybe our fall workshop in November.
Yes, I
there is
saw that. It's
also
so good.
another NNLM, which is National Network of Libraries of Medicine, grants that are out there. It was on CanLib. I'm going to write a note and I will forward that grant opportunity onto you, but know that you'll need to contact Margie at her new place for more information on grants. All I know is what's in that email.
And for new people here, Margie has roots in CKLS, and she loves it when she sees CKLS people applying for grants. Deanna, was it difficult to apply for these kits from NNLM?
No, it wasn't. We went ahead and became a member because it's free to do so. And we just filled out the application. It went ahead and gave us the sanitation guide already. And there's 4 total activities in this. They went ahead and approved the membership within a couple of days because I do think I did have to be a member.
Yes.
Get it. And then once they approved it, they sent an email, and then they sent me another email with the tracking number.
Wow.
So it's very exciting. There's even an apron in here where you can tack on all the organs. Very exciting.
Very interesting.
And
I
there's
call
also
small
tons
intestine.
of training on their website too. Tons of training.
Yes, and it's all at no cost. All you have to do is very quickly become a member. It doesn't take much at all, Deanna. So Amy, if you got an apron as well, and you two went to the fair, you would create quite a stir, I think. So we've got some great ideas. Does anybody have any questions about things that might work or not work? How many of you are coming to Spring Fling? Show of hands. Diane, you're not going?
Going.
Oh, lots. Yay. We are really, really, really looking forward to seeing you. Oh, Jules bringing 2. Wonderful. And 2 from Lebanon. The morning session will be ethics. We will have 3 nationally acclaimed ethics presenters who have been selected to teach library values and ethics to the Association of Rural and Small Libraries Leadership Institute. That's a fancy way of saying Maribeth, Patty, and I. We love presenting this. We do it with our same down-to-earth, practical, real-life examples. And the rest of the world loves to hear it, and we're excited because you guys are the first people we'll ever present it to face to face. We've done this all online. So we're very much looking forward to it. So what I want to advise is to make sure that if you've got anything that feels like an ethical dilemma, you can send the question in ahead and we will make sure to get it answered. I think you would know now that we're not judgy. It can be a problem and we won't judge you. That happens. Things happen in libraries, and it can be a problem with a board or a patron, the community, a coworker you think might, just a kind of an unethical, sticky sort of a thing. One of the reasons I think that Maribeth and Patty and I work so well on this is because we share very strong values and standards of ethics on all things library. And that really helps us present a unified front, but we all have different backgrounds in library and of course in life. And so that gives us different ways to look at problems. So we have some questions already to go. But we would like, especially if you've got any question that we could share with you, that would be very special to me.
And know that your question, if you choose, would remain anonymous. We would not say the ABC Public Library by name, or we would not see ABC person by name. We would just put your question out there, and this is an interactive session. So the idea is you're going to walk away with your own opinions in the ways that you would deal with things. And as she said, you're going to hear from the three of us in things like libraries best practices, things like law are going to be part of this, but also some of it truly is what comes from a total of, I think we figured out that we're over 60 years in libraries.
Older than I am.
Well, okay, Popeye. So over 60 years in libraries, combined experience, and we don't have all the answers, and so you may be the one bringing the question that's new to us, but we're going to give you time in the second hour to work with your table group. So this is just a preparing you, because some people don't like to sit in the group and be that person, but for you to talk with your colleagues and investigate some of these ethical questions. And we're going to be very honest with you. Everything that you will hear that day has come from a library sometime in our working, whether it's something we read about and learned about online, whether it happened in one of our own libraries in our past lives. And so it's all real stuff. We didn't make it up just to bring you stuff to talk about. So your problems and your dilemmas are the ones that we should be talking about.
And one great thing that comes out of this workshop is it helps people look at situations in a way that kind of helps them recognize, okay, this is something where we may be crossing a line, because that line moves and sometimes that line isn't where it used to be. So it helps you look at the situation critically and think about the options and be able to evaluate the situation. And also know when you need to bring in help, because that happens and that's okay. And know when I've heard of this before and now I know where to go from it. So it really empowers you to be able to take some of these situations that you may have always kind of felt a little iffy about
or icky
about. It's like, I don't think that was the way it should have happened, and look at it in a new way with new tools to address it in a way that you're going to be confident about and know that you can feel proud about the way you handled the situation.
Absolutely right. One of the things that we are all very keen on is what we call scripted language. And if you've got to deliver a message that's a little bit difficult, we help you come up with the language in your own words and help you practice it so that it's a little bit easier for you to deliver a message that might be difficult under normal circumstances. Doesn't make it always easy, but yeah.
An easy example of scripted language. Anybody ever been to Chick-fil-A? Bet you some of them are out there. Okay. Chick-fil-A, when you say thank you, what does the Chick-fil-A employee say?
My pleasure.
No matter what you say to a Chick-fil-A employee, they will do right, and then they will say, my pleasure. Southwest Airlines, if you have decided to be intoxicated and it's time for you to get on a plane, Southwest Airlines has one statement that they make, and every single counterperson that you run across will say the same thing. I'm sorry, but you won't be flying with us today. And having words like that that are in your back pocket make interactions with customers or patrons, whatever you call them, make them, you're so much better prepared to be able to respond, instead of being that person that is backpedaling, and it's obvious that they're backpedaling, and then the patron knows, oh, okay, well, she's a pushover, I may as well just, you know, go farther. And so we're gonna give you some of those things as part of this day too, because we're gonna give you lots of helpful links and to other presentations that we've done.
Norma, you had your hand raised. Was it still about Chick-fil-A, or did you have a question? Oh, okay, sure, Norma. She says, just for my screwed up head, tell me how this library service allotment is different from the system grant we have always received. I was 10 minutes late to the meeting and it was probably told then. It was, but we'll give a quick recap. Go ahead, Maribeth.
I'm going to show a chart because for me that helps make more sense. So the full system grant is made up of different pieces, and we're calling those allotments. So let me pull that up. And I'm going to pull up the one for what you're earning this year to receive next year, because that's more hopeful, right? Okay. See if I can expand that, and then I'm going to share it. Here we go. All right, can you see the big chart? Yes, yes, okay. So every library starts out with a base public library allotment. This is based upon your category or your library size, gateway, linking, service center 1 and 2. And that number is staying the same as the last few years. You also have a per capita allotment. This is based on your population. I have the newest numbers on there from the state certified 2019 numbers. The US Census numbers will come out in September, hopefully. So if there's any change, I will update those there. Then we have the public library service allotment. This is a new allotment added into the full system grant. And this is that $121,675 that we had set aside in previous years for grants. And some of that money was left on the table because not all the grants were awarded. Either we didn't get enough applications or what have you. Now that whole amount of money is distributed to all our libraries. We use the same percentage that you get from your per capita allotment is the percentage of the public library service allotment you get. So if you, and I have a chart which I can share with you to show it, but the math I am not good at explaining, but the same percentage of the per capita allotment you get is the same percentage of the public library service allotment. That's how we came up with that figure. The next allotment is your continuing education. I'm going to assume that everybody's going to spend all their CE allotment in 2020, and we're going to reimburse you back up to that $700. So that's what I put in there. And then the next one is the courier allotment. These numbers reflect the discounted rate that we will be getting in 2022 because of the closures that we had in 2020. And then this here, the total grant possible, this is the whole system grant. This is the whole grant possible. So I hope that when you say system grant, we're thinking of the umbrella. And then when we talk about an allotment, those are underneath that umbrella. The system grant covers all of these. And then each of these is just a portion of that.
When Maribeth sends out the recording of this, Norma, why don't you go ahead and watch the first half, because we throw out lots of ideas of ways that this can be spent. And several times we talk about the 3 things that you cannot spend it on. And we also say, if you have any questions, be sure and ask us, and we'll be able to let you know.
I did see that a few of our other friends did arrive a little bit late, and it really would be helpful to hear the very beginning of the meeting. And it was nice that recording is out there. So if you have another staff person who needs to hear it, or if you just need to hear it again. We hope that
Or-
we've given you some
If your board needs to hear it, so they get an idea of what you can spend it on and what you can't. It won't take long. Just watch the first half and you'll know when we're done talking about it.
and
start
that is
talking
good
about it.
trustee training, by the way.
Yes, it is. It's for long-range planning and procuring finances and using finances in the best way
So
possible.
if you choose that for your trustee training for your board to meet that standard, which is standard number 3, trustee training, make sure it's recorded in your minutes and you give me those minutes. I'd be happy to pre-fill your end of the year forms.
How nice it would be done to have that that check mark already done. Very nice. I'm afraid at Great Bend, I'm not going to get to spend it on anything fun. We had thought it would just become all for programming, but with the cold snap in that huge building that we're in, we had an $11,000 heating bill one month. And they've got us paying it out at $900 a month. So eek.
We do have 3 trustee trainings this summer. 2 are online. The June and August are online. And then the July one, which is July 8th, will be in person in Russell in the Fossil Creek Conference Center. And it will be catered by Maribeth. So if Palco, if that's the one you're waiting for, that's the one you want to mark down. July 8th in Russell.
But just because you're coming to trustee training this summer does not mean that watching the first half of this meeting would not benefit the board. They could stand to learn more than once in a year.
As a library director, here's what I always say is that it's your job to be the technical advisor to the board. And sometimes they run into training kicking and screaming, but if you can show them 10 minutes of a little video on a regular basis, you're going to get that trustee training in, and they're going to come to realize, oh, this is just part of our everyday meeting. We just do this all the time now. There are tricky ways to get trustees to eat their vegetables, as I always say. We're almost finished. Are there any more questions, friends?
I have a question, Ms. Gail.
Okay.
I wanted to know, is Joy Boyd here today?
Eaterlit is, but I'm not sure.
Joy, I see her. She's
Joy, are you? Yes, you are there.
Joy, we can't see your face today. I haven't seen you since you had such a big weekend. Are you there?
Yes.
Can I see your face?
Eaterlit saying, just give me a little bit of time.
Just walk over to Eaterlit's
Amy,
camera.
I see your mention that some people like the Zoom meetings and some
I've
people don't.
unmuted. Let me get my camera on. Yes, I had a wonderful weekend.
Excellent.
I don't know
And
how to get, oh, here's my video.
There she
There
is.
you are.
I still have my jungle.
So Miss Joyce had a very, very busy week. She had a daughter get married, but today is also a special day. Friends, will you join me in singing happy birthday in our very best voices? So turn on your microphone so Joy can hear the wonderful of CKLS. Okay, everybody ready? I'll start and then you just kind of join in. This should be really good. Ready? Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joy. Happy birthday to you.
Poor Joy, I don't think she deserved that.
this reminds me every time.
This is probably what you would rather look at. These are my beautiful flowers that my mom and dad sent to.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
this reminds me every time of that scene it's in one of the Harry Potter books where they're at the great feast at the starting and Dumbledore says, okay, everybody pick your favorite tune and now start singing the Hogwarts song, and everybody sings at a different rate. a different tune. It's just chaos, but it's fun. So
It
thank you
is
for
fun.
singing Hogwarts.
And I bet you haven't had anyone sing quite like that since you left teaching first grade.
Yes, we like to have birthday fun. One of the things that my coworkers have been missing is spontaneous bits of fun. And so this actually was wonderful for us. Thank you, Joy, for having a birthday. And thank your mother for us. And it was really great to see all of you. Remember, if you've got any questions, just give us a call. We're here for you. And we're really looking forward to the exciting ways that your library is going to spend the public library service allotment, even if it's just on supplies like toilet paper.
That's
We're
still good.
excited for you.
If you can spend that on toilet paper, you can spend that money you used to be spending on toilet paper on something else. So
That's
the
right.
idea.
That's right.
All right, I'm going to
Okay.
stop recording.